My father's name was Francis George Bain Collett. He was a local builder in Upper Slaughter, and he joined the First World War, I think probably about 1916. Well, there were 25 went from the village during the First World War, and fortunately they all returned, which you know, made us a thankful village from the start, really. There were 36, I believe, that served during the Second World War, and again, fortunately, everyone returned, which then made us, of course, a double thankful village. I don't think we sort of realised, not in the early years after the Second War, that there were villages, you know, that hadn't lost anyone in either war, or even just one of the wars. And it's a thing that seems to have sort of come to light more in the last 15 or 20 years than it did in the sort of early 50s. And it was decided that it would be nice to have a memorial board for those who had served and returned. And so my father, being the village carpenter and everything else, he made the board up, and I printed the names of the people that were in the Second War.
The First World War, the villages all over the country and the towns, the loss of life, you were losing complete generations. The young men that never came back, right across the country. There were a few villages which were very lucky. They all returned.
I've known about the Thankful Villages for many years. I was actually a young girl when all this was happening and realised that the First World War men had come back safely, and it was talked about a great deal in the village at that time, and the village was proud that its men had come back, so all 13 men came back from the First World War. During the Second World War, 13 men and women went to the Second World War. During this time, the village was empty, men were away, families were worried about the return, and thank goodness as the end of the war came, the men came back safely, and the men and women came back safely, so we had men and women returning. Other villages nearby lost many men, and it shows on their war memorials that there were many men named on these things where they've lost them, in villages just a few miles away from us. Here we have only got this memorial here to show that all our men did come back safely, and we are grateful that our men came back and thankful that they were back in the village with their families and loved ones.